Hi guys, this is Josie, creator of Mandalas for Fun, and I am welcoming you to another episode of our classes to create this beautiful coffee mandala tray. I hope to enjoy this class. In this video, the first thing that I'm going to show you is another way to find the center. So we place the disc on a paper and we just sketch the edge, and then we cut with a scissor. Try to cut just on top of the line and try to follow that line to make the circle as sharp as possible. Once we have our paper circle, we just bend it in 4 equal parts as if it was a pizza, and let it match with the edge of the MDF disc. And then on this corner is supposed to be the middle of the disc. Just to check it out, you can take a ruler and just make sure that from one edge to the center you have 2.5 centimeters of distance, and from the center to the other edge you have also 2.5 centimeters of distance. Then you've got yourself the middle of the disc. Then I'm going to show you the paints that I am going to use regardless of the brand of the paint you're using. I selected white pearl and 4 different colors of green. As you can see here, I have a shading from lighter color, light green, to darker green. You may choose any color you like. I have a suggestion in the description. And we're going to be using for tools these barbecue sticks. One of them is 2 millimeters of diameter, the other one 4 millimeters, and we're gonna be using the eraser of a pencil. And the first step that we're going to do is just to check different consistencies of the paints. I'm using white pearl, and I'm gonna show you now how I check the consistency is right for my dotting. So how do I know the consistency is right? Because when I pick it up with any tool, there's like a drop of paint but it doesn't fall. It doesn't fall that easily. It's creamy. The consistency is pretty creamy. So I'm going to just pick some paint with the back side of my pencil, and very slowly I'm going to press against the surface. It has to be a gentle movement. Yeah, I'm gonna be showing you also in other perspectives from the camera. But it's important that you have the center dot right in the center, and that it looks like a circle. If there is any part of the circle that is not well shaped, you can always adjust here with a toothpick or this really part of the barbecue stick. See? Yeah, and I am keeping it just as a reference, but then I'm going to show you something. I'm gonna pick little paint, and this is gonna be quite a difference, and I'm gonna make a dot using this technique of north, south, and just notice that I don't load too much paint, and I am also not pressing the paint and the tool against the surface. What matters here, in the middle of these two, I place another dot, is to have dots of the same size in the middle of these. I'm reinforcing this dot in the middle of these two I'm gonna place another dot, and in the middle of these two also another dot, and in the middle of these other two. And do notice that this is a technique that I use to ensure that I have pair numbers, and whatever happens here reflects here, and here it mirrors here. So keep that in mind, because it's part of the geometry alignment we need. Then right in the middle of every two dots, I'm gonna place another dot. And I have to be careful that they have to maintain same distance from the center dots, and that these dots are also same size. And that it's going to depend on the pressure against the surface and the quantity of paint that I load my tool with, independently of the tool we're using. And then with the same tool, look at what I'm gonna do. I'm even going to load with much less paint. You can also use a needle. And I'm going to even put less pressure against the surface. And see, I'm using the same tool, but still I can make two dots with different size. Why is that? Because of the quantity of painting I'm loading the tool with, and the pressure against the surface. I have to be controlling very well my hand to do that. And don't worry if this is one of your first mandalas. It's okay if you don't get it right during the first time. It's totally okay. We're learning. Every time we create a mandala, we get better. It's practice that gives you mastery on the subject. See, so yeah, we have the first line of our mandala, which is the most important one. I'm gonna just make a close-up. There are some tiny dots that mixed up with the bigger ones, but it's okay. Now let me show you another paint with this. It's like an apple, clear apple green color, and look at the consistency. See, if I pick some paint, it's not creamy at all. So what I'm doing here is just mixing up a paint with, let's say, a neutral color that has a great consistency, and taking advantage of the consistency of that paint to improve the consistency of the other paint. We might eventually need a little bit of water, and also any flow medium or pour medium, just to make the consistency of this one much more creamy. And again, with the same tool, I'm just going to load same. See, it looks much more creamy. And I'm gonna try to place the dots right on top of the small dots, and there will be a gap between these dots. This has to be a gentle process. Don't rush. Take your time. If you need to erase everything and restart, it's fine. Yeah, so right in the middle of two dots and on top of the tiny dots, we place another dot. And do note that I am still using same tool, and even if the center is expanding, I keep the same size of the dots in on the second line, like in the first line. Just let the paint fall gently over the surface. And then either with the a needle, or with the same tool, I'm gonna be using the same tool. If I load with much less paint and I just make small pressure, can you see? I can again repeat the experience. I can make a smaller dots, even if I am using the same tool. And this is something that I really want you to get familiar with, because we're going to be playing with paint loads and different loads of paint, different controls of our hand skills. See? And again, as I said before, don't worry if you're not getting it right. Remember about the power of yet. We have to keep practicing. So there will be a color shading with these other 3 greens that I've shown you, or any color you're choosing for this mini mandala. In this case, I am going to pick the next darker color, and then again on top of the, see, I have all the colors here lined up. I wanted to show you this. And then right on top of the small dots for the 3rd line, we place another dot. Do note that on this occasion, I am making a bigger dot compared to the previous 2 lines. The big dot on this line is bigger than the big dots in the previous line. And of course, there will be a gap again that I'm gonna be filling up with the same tool, again loading with just little paint and just having the paint touch really softly the surface. And now I'm repeating the same procedure with the 3rd. Now I'm gonna go right after the next paint with the darker color that is closer to the darkest green that I have. And on this line, do note, that this paint has been exposed a little bit too much to oxygen, and it stopped being creamy. So I had to put a drop of water, but again, you can always use a medium flow or a pouring flow to get this creamy consistency. And this time I'm loading the same tool that I've been using since the beginning with much more paint, and in some cases I'm just adjusting the dots with another layer just to make sure it's a little bit bigger. And I have to be observing that all the dots that I am creating are same size on this line. And they are going to be bigger than the dots on the previous lines. Once again, I'm loading the same tool with just little paint and placing a dot right in the middle of every two dots. This circling, this working in circles, like many things, many circle things we have in nature, is aligning our brain, believe it or not. See, it's connecting us to nature, to the different energies of the nature, to the geometry, sacred geometry in nature. Working in circles makes great work in our brain. So yeah, we have 4 lines so far. Now we're moving ahead with our last paint. I'm just going to put some more paint because yeah, I put some paint here, but again it's been exposed a little bit to the air. I'm gonna be using a pouring medium. There's a flow medium. There's a difference between these chemicals, but I'm using Pebeo brand, but you can use Liquitex, you can use Jo Sonja, which are great brands, and they get you creamy consistency when your paint is not that creamy. Mix up very well till the mix is really smooth. And in this occasion, since our circle has expanded, we will need the backside of the thinner barbecue stick. Remember to place a dot in the middle of the 2 dots. I'm just gonna close up here. And the sequence is pretty much the same. We just have to make sure that we place the dot right on top of the small dot of the previous line. So it's kind of a pattern. You will see it's kind of also a lot of repetition, but believe it or not, this is what is benefiting us, even if we don't see it or we cannot perceive it right away. This pattern repetition, this pattern circle pattern we're working help us a lot. And well, this paint, and it's important that I discuss that with you, is not as smooth as I wanted it to be. It's not giving me the M dots, but still I wanted to show you these different situations with consistency and how you can improve that dotting and how can you improve your dots. We're gonna find different situations in which not necessarily the dot is going to be perfect. So we have to place another dot on top. Okay, and I'm just going to show you another trick just to make proper adjustments. See, either we wait till the paint is fully dried out and then we make another, we work out the consistency so the dot looks like an M&M, or while it is still wet, we make a circle with the fine part of any tool we're using. It's going to dilute any peak. Also remember that in this case we're going to be applying resin, so in the end it's not that necessary to have on these arts the M&M dots, but they have to look beautiful. Look, now I'm going to be using the bigger barbecue stick, and I'm going to place, and in this case I'm making a bigger pressure against the surface because I want to widen the size of the dot. I'm gonna skip these two and I'm gonna place the big dot here. The consistency of this paint is pretty creamy, but what I want to achieve here, you might ask me about, why are you making so much pressure against the surface? It's just because I want to teach you use less tools while dotting, so you have different experiences. And then when that happens, when you don't have many tools of different sizes, you have to play with your tools to get dots of different sizes with the tools you have. So one of the tricks is just to apply, in this case, much pressure, but the paint has to be really, really creamy. And now we're gonna create a visual effect. It's a fun effect, you will see. I'm gonna take the pointy part of the tool, and I'm going to place on top of every white dot a dark green dot. And now I'm gonna take the pointy part of the smaller, or the smaller barbecue stick, and then I'm gonna make a dot with a much more clear color. Yeah, so you will see some color shading too here. And I'm gonna place it only on one side of the white dot, not on both sides, because I want to create a movement effect. Then I'm going to take another green that is less dark than the previous one, and with the same tool I'm gonna make a smaller dots, also only on one of the sides. See, it's making a continuation here, a line. And then last but not least, we're gonna be working with the lights. Let me clean my tool. Then I'm going to pick the lighter green that I have, and we're gonna be working the dots. So I pick paint once. I'm gonna get some of the lighter green, And I'm just going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I have space, 5 dots. But I just load once and I connect to the bottom side of the next dot. You can decide to do this to the right or to the left, it's up to you. See that the consistency of the paint is a little bit difficult to work with. It gets me a picky dot. And this is what I meant to show you here. The idea, ideally, is to have these creamy dots. But if you're not having them, don't worry. Specifically for this work, we're going to be applying resin afterwards, and it's going to correct any situation with the paint consistency. So by just making this connecting line from the top of every white circle to the bottom of the next circle, either to the right or to the left, you will see movements in this design. And then last but not least, we're gonna take the thinner wood stick, and then we're going to the back side of the wood stick, place smaller dots right in the middle. Feel free to keep including additional dots if you like. I'm just gonna leave it like this. I think it's beautiful as it is. I love green. It's inspires me like freshness. Yeah. So that's it for today.